Beware, this video contains spoilers. You have been warned. Hello everyone. This week I thought we'd do something a little bit different from the usual. Instead of watching an episode of Star Trek, we are going to be counting down, since I just finished the first season of the original series, my top 10 episodes of the original series, season 1. Now, I just want to preface this by saying, one, this is my opinion, and I'm not even really that confident in my own opinion about how much I enjoyed each and every one of these episodes. I really hate making lists like this, even for my own personal self, because I always feel like my opinion and feelings on things is always constantly changing. If I were to rewatch the entire first season, this list would probably change dramatically. And also, thinking about trying to recall exactly how I felt about every detail of every episode feels very overwhelming. So needless to say, this is going way out of my comfort zone, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. I'm also pretty sure that my list is going to be completely different from anyone else's list. And please don't take it personally if I don't have your favorite episode anywhere on this list. So first, the bottom 5. These are going to be in no particular order, and the top 5 will be ordered. The first episode in the lower half of the top 10 is going to be The Naked Time. This is actually kind of surprising for me because when I first watched the episode, I didn't really love it. And I think the main issue with this episode, at least for me, is the placement that it is in the series. I think it really should have been further down. It was the 7th in production, which is pretty early on, and it was actually the 4th one that was aired, so even sooner. It's great because it shows this completely different, wacky side of these characters that we grow to learn about and to love, but it should have been placed like later so that we could actually have more of a chance to see how these characters are with their normal inhibitions and not going absolutely crazy. I didn't really know much or have any sort of attachment to Sulu's character, so I found it a lot less entertaining to go off the rails when I first watched the episode to now when I think back on it. I thought Riley was thoroughly entertaining, and definitely a highlight for me was Leonard Nimoy's performance as Spock, showing the dangers of how undealt with emotions coming to the surface can be very harmful and be a very intense experience. The next one I want to talk about is the Corbomite maneuver. It's one of the early episodes that I saw that really made a big impact with how engrossed I became with everything that was going on, the kind of mystery, the battle of wits between Kirk and his opponent. It really gave me a lot of things to think about. It was such a tense and suspenseful time, and the ending was really unexpected with some really good vibes. Up next, we have What Are Little Girls Made Of? The reason that this episode is on the list is because of Andrea and how hot she is. Alright, moving on. No, I'm just kidding. While she definitely helps to elevate the episode a little bit more than it already is, it is a great episode to me. I just have always really loved the question and philosophy behind what makes a human and when does something that was once human or part of a human no longer become human? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't think I ever will. And I think that's part of the intrigue of media that asks this question. The fact that Dr. Corby was himself one of these androids was something that I didn't see coming and was a really neat twist, and I like twists like that. Moving on, we come to Errand of Mercy. Again, with this one, there was a lot of mystery and intrigue building up to a big reveal. I liked how two enemies, Kirk and Kor, almost found this camaraderie or brothership in their similarities as opposed to the very strange and perplexing Organians. I just thought it was really interesting to see that those two were more alike than they thought when contrasted against the higher beings of the Organians. And then before we get into the top 5, I wanted to talk about the last one on this lower half list, which is Charlie X. Now, Charlie X was an episode that after I first watched it, I wasn't really convinced on how much I actually enjoyed it. The ending left me feeling very uncomfortable. Charlie's character overall left me feeling a little bit uncomfortable, agitated, but I kept thinking back on it. I can't get Charlie out of my head. I feel so incredibly sad for him. That episode has really moved and continues to move me, and everything doesn't always have to be a happy ending. The endings that make us feel a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit like, I wish it didn't end like that way. Kind of wish that, we could have had a happier outcome to that for Charlie. Those really stand out to me. It was really horrific seeing Charlie being taken away against his will, and for me, in like the blink of an eye, I went from being rather annoyed by this character to really feeling for him and wanting the best for him. Some other highlights of this episode are Uhura singing and Spock playing the Vulcan lute, if I recall correctly. And of course, it had a big focus on my favorite girl, Janice Rand, who I miss very much. Still not over her departure. Still not over it. All right, now let's move into the top 5. Number 5 for me is going to be The Enemy Within. After I saw this episode, this was instantaneously one of my favorites. I loved Kirk's performance in kind of really personifying the different sides of Kirk, or just the different sides of humans in general. The good and the bad, the yin and the yang, the id and the superego. I just loved really dissecting the psyche of Captain Kirk. I like how it shows some of the more undesirable or harsher traits of a person are quite important. And when Kirk comes back together as his full self, it really shows just how well balanced of a person he is so that he can be who he is. He has just the right amount of everything. This episode also really stood out to me for the makeup, the camera work, the lighting that they used to show the differences between the two Kirks. And then Spock and Bones being there for Kirk in any way that they can, being the support that Kirk needs in order to fix things on his own without overstepping their bounds and things like that. Also, that unicorn dog thing was something else, wasn't it? Okay, for number 4, it's going to have to be the Menagerie parts 1 and 2. I put them together. I also include the cage in this. I know maybe that's a little bit of cheating. I think the cage would have definitely been in my top 10 or my top 5, even without the stuff that Menagerie added to it. While I can see that the way that they dissected the cage and then put it into the Menagerie and made it like this long 2-parter could be a little off-putting to some people, I did think it was a really ingenious idea to reuse that footage, but also make it something new. As one of the few people who actually watched the cage before watching the Menagerie, reviewing one of my favorite episodes that I watched early on that really made a big early impact on me, and seeing all the funny moments again and the highlights of that put me in this place of pain and regret about the state that Captain Pike ended up finding himself in, to bring it around to this very relief-filled, joyous conclusion. It was just really perfect for me. The stars kind of aligned, and they were able to keep surprising me all the way to the end when Jose, I think his name was, turned out to be a projection as well and wasn't even there in the first place. Amazing. Number 3 is A Taste of Armageddon. Instantly one of my favorite episodes. How much do I really need to say here? If you saw my reaction to this episode, you know how much it moved me, how much it surprised me, how much it left me in kind of awe. There were concepts that were new to me with this kind of like sterile, clean, pain-free war fought through computers. 2 opposing civilizations stuck in this infinite loop of being in conflict, the tragic loss of life, but where these people are just data, they're just statistics. Without the full horrors of war, there's a lot less incentive to try to end that war. And of course, I loved Kirk's speech. It really got to me. Even with all our imperfections, our violent tendencies, one thing that makes humans special is that we have a choice. We have the intelligence. We have the conscience. We're not always subject to our instincts. We have them, yes, but we can make that decision to do something different today and tomorrow and the next day if we choose. Oh, and we can't forget to talk about how much of a total badass Scotty is in this episode. Major applause, yes. Get it, Scotty, get it. And now on to number 2, which is the very well-loved by many of you, The City on the Edge of Forever. There was something that felt very different about this episode to me than a lot of the other episodes. There was a very kind of relatable, down-to-earth, intimate, very character-focused story. We got to see what I felt personally was the most believable romance between Kirk and one of the women. The women! This one, like with the Charlie X episode, goes against the grain of how a lot of the episodes end, leaving you very sad, uncomfortable, empty, just not good. It really stands out, and some of you have mentioned how very quick I am sometimes to figure things out and to kind of see the direction of where things are going early on. In this episode, I didn't. I thought I had an idea. I had an idea in my head that they were going to make us think that she needed to die and then subvert those expectations at the end to show that Spock was wrong, she was supposed to live, and we would have, a bittersweet ending where Kirk has to separate from her, but she gets to live. So while I had those kind of expectations, when it ended with her death like that, it was very shocking. It was very impactful. I was feeling probably a small fraction, but still some of that grief that Kirk was feeling in that moment. And it hurt extra hard because she was such a kind, caring, giving soul, so selfless. She just wanted to help people, every individual person that she could. And then she wanted to help the world. She wanted to bring peace. And she had such an optimistic view of the future. She just saw the good, the potential in humans. All the things that they could achieve if they worked together. The places that we could go as a species. To explore, to learn, to discover. Not to hurt each other. So in short, it was a very impactful episode for me. And Kirk's performance and just that ending just gave me chills. Chills. Okay, we gotta pull ourselves back together. Let's talk about some honorable mentions before we get into the number 1 episode. These are some of the episodes that I was struggling, trying to figure out if I wanted them in the top 10 or not. They really, really are excellent and I really enjoyed them. And maybe tomorrow they will be in my top 10. But right now I had to pick 10, okay? And it was hard. So Balance of Terror, The intellectual combat between the two captains, born on two opposing sides in this conflict, but having this intense respect and admiration for each other, and under different circumstances, most definitely would have been fast friends, I'm sure. Another one being the Galileo 7, a very intense, stressful situation. Of course, I knew that they were going to get out of there, at least some of them, at least, you know, the important ones. Kirk being stubborn as a bull, not wanting to give up on his crew and his friends, trying everything he can, waiting till the last possible second, and then at that last second, them being saved. That relief and that joy when everybody was okay, except for the ones that weren't, that died on the planet, but still. It was palpable, it was contagious, it felt good. I did have a lot of fun with that one. We also have Space Seed, Khan Noonien Singh. Excellent performance by, I'm probably gonna mispronounce, Ricardo Montalban. He really brought the character of Khan to life. A very intriguing character, a very magnetic character, a very complex character, a very complex relationship between him and Marla MacGyver's. Shore Leave is another good one, just good fun. Very creative episode. I love the setting, the beauty of the planet that they were on. I know not everybody is a fan of Finnegan, but I thought he was fun and hilarious. The music that went along with it, and seeing Kirk get out his pent-up frustration and understanding how important that is, and how cathartic, and sometimes before you can relax, you really have to work through some stuff. And Kirk obviously had some stuff he needed to work through. Two more. The Conscience of the King. That's another one similarly to Charlie X, where when I first watched it, it was okay, but I couldn't get it out of my head. I kept thinking about Kodos and the decision that he made, and was it the right one? Was it the wrong one? If he had made the other decision, it could have gone incredibly wrong as well. I felt like he was a very complex villain. I don't really view him as purely evil or purely like a saint who just happened to be under impossible circumstances, but as somebody very human who maybe makes mistakes, who tries his best to do things the way that he thinks is the correct way, and the world might view him as this disgusting villain, but to him, he's not. He's just doing what he thinks is the best, and then has this regret afterwards, this pain of the actions that he did. I can't stop thinking about this one. And then lastly, This Side of Paradise. Of course, we have excellent performances from Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelly. Am I saying his first name right? DeForest? I loved how it gave me a lot to think about and to revisit the ideas of, is a utopia possible if humans did have no adversity, no disease, no strife, no predators, no enemies? Would that be ideal? Or would it cause this stagnation, this complacency, this lack of a drive to create, to innovate? And would that eventually cause a collapse and a ruin to the species? And of course, the chilling scene where it shows Kirk alone on the bridge and his pain and frustration and anger with that, and helping me to really appreciate just how important his crew is, his friends are, to him personally, as well as to the success of his missions. And I guess I'll stop there, but I could go on and on about the high points of pretty much every episode, with maybe the exception of a very few of them that I didn't really jive with, but a lot of other people do, so they're still great episodes in their own way. And now for number one, I'm gonna have to go with, for right now, Devil in the Dark. This one really kind of subverted my expectations once again, with me thinking that the main objective was to save the humans from the creature, but really it's to save the creature from the humans. I loved the look of the set, the dark blue hues, Going through these series of tunnels and caves gave like a very claustrophobic, almost horror aspect to the episode, with this creature lurking that can kill somebody instantly and not knowing where it is, when it's going to show up. Again, we have another fantastic performance from Leonard Nimoy in giving a voice to this species that's in a lot of pain, not just physically from its injury, but emotionally as well. Knowing that her whole species, all of her children are going to be gone, that this was the very end for these creatures that had lived for so long. It gives us a warning to not just fear the unknown, but actually try to understand it, to get to know it, to not have violence be our first instinct, our first action. We had an awesome line from McCoy. We had Scotty being Scotty. I mean, what is there not to love about this one? So now that I have this list, in a week's time from now, I'm probably going to disagree with everything that's on it and want to rearrange everything and that kind of stuff. But hopefully it kind of gives you an idea about what are kind of the things that I really enjoy about the series. What kind of subjects, questions about morality, philosophy, make me really think, make me really happy to think about, what things move me. And I hope that gets you excited for some of the episodes that are coming up. Of course, I'll ask again, what were your favorite episodes? What's your top 3, 5, 10, whatever it may be for you personally? There's no right or wrong answer with this. That was my top 10. Star Trek is so much fun. I can't wait to get into season 2, and I hope you guys will continue with me on that journey and beyond. And I'll see you guys then. Goodbye.